I stayed silent. Not because I was weak. I stayed silent because I was a mother. There were days I wanted to scream. Days I wanted to explain myself. Days I wanted the world to know the truth. But every time I looked at my children, I swallowed my pain and chose silence. They will never know how many nights I cried quietly, or how many times I broke so they could feel safe. This is not a story of courage, you see. It is a story of the courage no one applauds, the kind a mother carries alone, for the sake of her children. This is Doreen Revenge Stories. When truth hurts, my stories heal. There are people who believe silence is surrender. They think if you do not fight loudly, you have already lost. But they do not understand what it means to look into the eyes of children who depend on you for everything: food, safety, peace, hope. When my silence began, no one clapped for me. No one noticed. It happened quietly, in moments too small for the world to pay attention to. It began the day I realized that the truth, if spoken, would break my children before it healed me. My name is Ndidi. But what matters most is that I am a mother, and mothers learn very early that love sometimes demands unbearable restraint. I was married for 17 years. From the outside, our home looked stable, not perfect but warm. The kind of home where children ran barefoot, laughter echoed from the kitchen, and evenings ended with tired smiles. But there were things I carried alone. My husband was not a bad man. He loved our children deeply. He provided, he protected them. But he had a weakness: one, he trusted me to guard with my silence. At first, I thought love meant honesty at all costs. I wanted him to explain himself. I wanted answers that would ease my confusion. But then I watched my children sleep one night, their chests rising and falling in innocent rhythm, and I understood something I was not prepared for. Truth has consequences, and children always pay first. So I stayed silent. I stayed silent when questions were asked at family gatherings. I stayed silent when rumors brushed against our door. I stayed silent when people assumed things about me that were not true. I learned to smile when my heart was tired, to nod when I wanted to scream, to walk away when defending myself would expose wounds my children did not deserve to see. Silence slowly became my language. Then one night, everything changed. My husband fell ill suddenly. There was no long warning, no dramatic goodbye, just a phone call, a hospital corridor, a doctor who avoided my eyes, and just like that, I became a widow. Grief does not announce itself politely. It crashes into your life and rearranges everything. My children cried in ways I had never heard before. The youngest asked when their father was coming back. The oldest tried to be strong, holding back tears that soaked his pillow at night. And in the middle of that pain, people came with questions. Questions about property, about decisions, about things that had nothing to do with burial or healing. That was when I understood the weight of silence I had carried all those years. Some truths protect, others destroy. After my husband's death, the pressure increased. People wanted explanations I could give. They wanted clarity I possessed. But each time I imagined opening my mouth, I saw my children's faces change. I saw confusion, fear, loss of respect for the only parent they had left. So I chose silence again. I sold my jewelry quietly to pay school fees. I learned how to stretch food without complaint. I took on work at night when the children slept. There were moments I broke down in the bathroom, sitting on the floor so they would not hear me cry. There were nights I whispered apologies to myself. I wondered if one day my children would grow up and hate me for what I did not say. But every morning when they woke up smiling, I reminded myself why I chose this path. Silence is heavy. It presses against your chest. It steals sleep. But it also shields. Years passed. My children grew older. They became observant. They noticed how people spoke around me, how some conversations stopped when I entered a room. One evening, my eldest sat beside me. He did not accuse. He did not demand. He simply said, "Mom, you carry a lot alone." In that moment, I almost broke my silence. But I realized something important. Silence does not mean lies. It means timing. And that time had not yet come. I told him, gently, some things are carried until you are strong enough to understand them. He nodded. And for the first time, I felt seen. Today my children are older, and are now wiser. And some truths have slowly found their way to them, not through anger, not through gossip, but through maturity. They now know the past I have carried and kept away from them, just to give them a happy childhood. How did the truth came to them? The truth came quietly, the way most truths do. One afternoon, while sorting old documents, my children found a file that did not belong to us. Bank statements, old letters, and a folded page written in their father's handwriting. They did not rush to accuse me. They sat with confusion written on their faces. That evening, my eldest came to sit beside me. He held the papers gently and asked, "Mom, who is this?" In that moment, I knew the silence I had carried for years had reached its end. I took a deep breath, not because I was afraid, but because I wanted to speak with care. I told them the truth. I told them their father had made a mistake long time ago. A mistake that resulted in a child he never abandoned, but could never openly claim. I told them he was ashamed, not heartless, that he chose responsibility over denial. He was sorry for that act. I forgave him and let go. Your father trusted me enough to guard that truth, and I promised him I will. Their faces changed, not with anger, but with pain. I did not defend myself. I did not justify my silence. I only said one thing. I stayed silent so you would grow up whole, not bitter. There was a long quiet after that. Then my daughter wiped her tears and said, "So you carried this alone? For us?" I nodded. That night, for the first time in years, I slept without the weight of silence on my chest. Today my children understand. They understand that love is not always loud. That protection sometimes looks like restraint. That truth, when given too early, can wound instead of heal. They do not see their father as a villain. They see him as a flawed man who tried to do the right thing. And they see me, not as a woman who hid the truth, but as a mother who chose peace over pride. Silence did not make me weak. It made my children strong. And if silence is the price of raising whole hearts, then it was a price I was willing to pay. And today, my children has brought home their stepsister, and we all are now living happily as a family. Thank you for watching. If this story moved you, hit subscribe and join the family. More truth, more power, more stories coming.